So we're sitting in the back 40 at Keystone Utility Keystone Trailers. There we go. I got it.
You got it.
Okay, good. With Bryan Zeamer. And what is your title here at Utility Keystone?
President.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, we just wanted to sit down and have a real and honest conversation with you about some of what you do and just what you guys are doing. You have a team of people here. You mind me asking about how many people are you managing here at Utility Keystone?
We have 130 people with 5 locations across Pennsylvania. This is our headquarters, so our main location. Okay.
Wow. Yeah, there's a lot of trailers.
Yes.
So,
Maybe too many.
This is just, did you say too many?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is selling trailers, so
right.
If you want to buy some, Google. Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you end up here? And a little bit of the origins and the history of Utility Keystone. How long have you been in business? Who started it? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm second generation. My father, Stan Zeamer, he started back in 1978 with the Zeamer brothers, who had a Peterbilt dealership on Manheim Pike.
Okay.
They wanted to diversify, get into the trailer part of the business. They found utility out of California, which strictly deals with independent dealers.
Okay.
They want owner operators with skin in the game.
Nice.
Yeah. So through actually a wrestling connection, my dad was a wrestling coach at F&M.
That makes
Marshall.
a lot of sense.
Yeah. He was a wrestling coach, and Nelson Zeamer was a wrestling fan that went to Lehigh and then owned, at the time, Keystone Peterbilt.
Okay.
They were friends. My dad, he showed some interest in business, and so when they created Utility Keystone with the Bennett family out in the City of Industry, California, my dad became a third owner in Utility Keystone back in 1978.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so he became a third owner because they wanted that owner-operator with skin in the game, and Hal Bennett, president at the time, helped negotiate that deal.
Okay.
And
so in the 70s, trucking was a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always been.
And I was going to say, do you feel like has it been consistently that way, or has it gotten more so, or?
One of a fellow dealer that I love to say, what he would say is, it's a glorious business.
I love that.
I loved it too.
Yeah.
So I'll steal it from him. And just because it's relationship based.
Yeah.
It's not retail, it's wholesale. So you're dealing with other business people, whether they're an owner operator or they're a director of fleet maintenance with 1,000 trailers in the fleet.
Okay.
So the whole gamut.
Wow.
But it's a relationship based business. That's what I love about it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it sounds that way. I mean, so your dad was the third owner back then, and then.
Yep. And then in 2008, so 70, I think my math's right. Was that 30 years?
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's when I took over.
Okay.
My brother is a minority partner with me.
Okay.
And so we're a second generation family owned business.
Now, up until 2008, had you been working here alongside your father, or what were you doing?
Yeah, so I went to out of high school, had a 2-year stint at Penn State as a walk-on wrestler. Transferred to Elizabethtown here locally.
I'm seeing a pattern here.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's some history there, and so graduated from Elizabethtown College with a business management degree.
Okay.
And then I sold cars out of college because I'm a motorhead.
Nice.
Motorcycles and wrestling kind of litter my past.
Yeah. Well, we are in Manheim. It's the largest auto auction in the world, I believe. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Selling cars. That doesn't surprise me that that's something in your history.
Yep. So didn't love that business, retail, off hours, kind of distrust with customers as soon as a customer walks on the lot, they don't trust you.
Yeah.
So came to talk to my dad, and I started here as a management trainee, but I had worked in the summertime. I'd worked in the shop as a mechanic's helper, doing basically the worst jobs. My dad would give my brother Bill and my sister Bridget, we would clean the facility on the weekends, come in and mop the floors, clean the toilets, that type of thing. And then we would weed the bank. You know, we would clean trailers. We would do the absolute worst jobs, which
Yeah.
was really good for us.
Yeah.
So that's how we cut our teeth
Okay.
in the business. And then when I came in, I was manager trainee, so I would learn, from the bottom up,
Okay.
the operations, sales, the whole nine.
So your dad walked you through everything then?
You know what? My dad and myself were kind of hands-off leaders.
Yeah.
So it wasn't ever a micromanagement type of thing. It was
Yeah.
more like, hey, here's an opportunity, jump in
Figure it out.
and figure it out.
Yeah.
That's that worked for me over time.
You know, it's funny. I don't know if I'm wired that way, or because that's the way that I am wired. I don't know that I understand any other type of learning. For me, those are the things that I've learned and remembered the best when I don't want to even say thrown into it. For me, I'll never forget one of the first jobs where I started to really understand what we were doing in electrical construction. I had a foreman, and we were doing a treatment plant, and it had all these buildings on the site. It was a big site. And he walked into this building, they were putting the block up, took the print and some duct tape and taped it to the wall. And he looks at me and he goes, "Malott, this is your building. I'll see you when the job's done. Figure it out."
Okay.
And so I was like, now I had had some training up until that point, but that was the first time where it went from, "Hey, what should I do next? Hey, what should I do next?" to, he's like, "Don't bother me until you've tried to figure it out."
Yeah.
And that was huge in doing something in my brain to make me learn.
Yeah.
So it sounds similar to what you were doing.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
okay. So you're learning those things and you're going through that process. At what point? So you took over in 2008. Now, was your dad still here then, or did he leave? Or
2008 is, let me think about this. He retired in 2008. So back in 2000, I think it was, we moved here in 2000, this facility.
This facility here.
Yeah, so we've been here 24 years.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, the same year or close to it that he did a bicycle trip across the country.
What?
Yeah. And that was good for me because I was in charge. Like, so he left and said,
Wow.
"Hey, run the place."
He taped the print to the wall and said, "I'm out."
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that was good, right? So that helped me to really take ownership. And
What do you think is the number one thing that you learned in that experience when you had to lead the business? What's the thing that stands out to you the most from that time?
when we moved here, the timing was absolutely terrible,
Yeah.
right? So there was a recession in the industry. We moved to a facility that tripled our nut, right? And so you've heard that term.
Yeah, I've heard that term. I just think it's a funny term.
It's kind of an old school.
Yeah,
but
it is an old school term. I love it.
yeah, I do too. So tripled our expenses, and yet business was down. So it was survival mode for actually 32 months. I remember that.
Wow.
Yeah, 32 months. My dad was still in charge, right?
Right.
So he had to navigate that. I learned a lot through it. It was the timing just was bad. We had too much inventory, and business declined, and we had to survive.
And that was in that time where your dad was biking across America.
No, well, good question. I think I forget
Okay.
the exact time. I do know that when he had left for the trip across the country, we were not out of the woods yet,
Yeah.
right? So I did learn a ton.
I find you keep saying the timing was really bad, but I wonder if the timing was just right. And the reason that I say that is I don't know that you can learn those things except to go through them.
You can, and I came into the business in '96, so I had about a 5-year window before this recession hit.
Okay.
And all I saw was up and to the right. Okay.
Wow.
So that was my perception, like a business in this.
Well, that made this experience probably a lot harder for you than it was for your dad.
Correct.
Because this is your first experience of that level of hardship.
Right.
Was
So
it scary?
It was tough. It was tough. It was a tough time with our relationship. It was a tough time for me and my brother.
Oh, so your brother was here and involved as well.
He was here, and through that time, he left the company. Right around, I think, we hit a recession. My dad had to make some tough calls. They got sideways, and he decided to leave for another opportunity. After we did the succession planning and things, I asked my brother, "Would you, why don't you come back?"
Yeah.
And so, family business can be tough.
Yeah.
Right. So it can put a strain on the relationships.
I'm not in a family business, so I don't know, but I don't want to be in a family business because of some of what I've seen. So maybe you guys are the exception. Actually, I shouldn't say that because there are a lot of very successful family businesses.
Right. Yeah. I think family businesses are over 50% of our GDP.
Wow.
I don't know if you knew that term.
I did not know that.
But
you're dropping facts here on the line.
It's huge. It's just absolutely huge for what family business means to our economy, to people's lives, and helping them flourish.
Do you think that's because in building a business, it's one thing when you're established, but in building a business, you really need those relationships of trust?
Yes.
And I would think that that's more common. I worked for a company years ago, and we always struggled with, when the boss's son came to work and you'd been working there for a little while. And I remember having this struggle with, why is he getting that opportunity? And then I realized one day in particular, I was like, oh, well, they know he's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
They know. And it was like, because it wasn't nepotism or anything like that. It was like, listen, this is a big deal. And he's got skin in the game, as you said earlier.
Yeah, I think my dad did a great job with not handing us a silver spoon.
Yeah.
Right, and giving us like the hardest jobs and making us prove ourselves.
I actually think that's something that is really important because we don't realize life is not easy, and I think that we don't realize. I mean, I have 3 kids, and my wife and I were talking the other day about this, and I said, well, I would rather teach them hardship in a controlled environment that I'm in control of. Because we were having a discussion about, the discussion was going something like this. I was making them do something that I didn't have to make as hard as it was. And it was very much one of those figured out situations. And I gave them a couple of things, and it was like, well, that's going to be hard. Maybe you should just give them this, this, and this. And we were having a really honest and good conversation about it. And I was just saying, her and I were talking about this in the sense of we need to prepare them for hardship. And if we don't ever let them experience some, especially where we can swoop in and protect them from it when it actually gets dangerous. Yeah. My parents were really good at teaching me about that. I remember I bought my first house when I was 18, and I budgeted it to the dollar, which meant I was wrong because it costs way more than what you think it's going to cost. And my parents allowed me to do that, and then they did things like, I remember my dad showed up and restoned the driveway one time, and I didn't have the money to do that.
Yeah.
I didn't think things like that. But
that's cool.
Yeah. So there you are. You're dealing with that. I have one more question before we move to the next place, but related to that, I'm listening to that hardship that you were going through, and I know you're saying it was the worst time, but yet I think that's probably so good for you in making you who you are today.
Yeah.
How did you deal with, I just read a post this morning by a guy on LinkedIn, and he talked about when he wakes up in the morning, sometimes, actually, I think he was saying all the time, he wakes up and anxiety is right there at his bedside. So I would assume that you had some anxiety in that time. And maybe you still have anxiety. I have anxiety from time to time, and I do think it's a battle, but how did you deal with that?
Good question. I learned a lot through wrestling.
Okay. You can drill down on that.
I really did. I learned, you could, it's you and another guy, and it's like survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
And it is survival. So you learn to fight. You learn to fight through things. You learn if you want to do better, you have to be disciplined. You have to put extra time in. You have to hone your technique, your strength, things like that. So I'm fortunate I went through that sport because it just teaches you that resilience and that mental toughness.
Yeah.
So when I hit something like that, I'm like, okay, this is a different kind of tough,
Yeah.
more mental, more, that type of thing. But I had a stick-to-itiveness that just to bear it out,
Yeah.
stay committed. I was like, man, I want out of here so bad, right? Because and I was ticked at my dad, and we were sideways, like I said, but yet I still loved him. We had a good relationship. We trusted each other, and I'm like, I got to stick this out. I got to stay with it, and I just knew that it would change.
Yeah.
And even though that can take some time, I had faith that hey, this is gonna turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's Andy Frisella. I had a post the other day, and he owns an organization called First Form, and they're all about exercise and being healthy and all that stuff. And I heard his brother Sal speak a few weeks ago, but he had a post here the other day that he said the greatest achievement that you've ever made is not your success, is not this, is not that. He said it was that time, however many years ago, when you wanted to quit and you chose not to.
Yeah.
And it's like, I saw that, and I actually saved it. I don't typically save things, but I was like, that's really good, because there are days when, and you even just said it. You said you wanted to leave, you wanted to be done, and I think that's part of what I want my kids to learn is the importance of being able to be diligent and push through that.
Yeah.
Because the longer that we delay gratification, the longer that we delay those things. I mean, my goodness, my nephew is a big-time wrestler, and I've watched him through Thanksgiving not enjoy any of the food that the rest of us are enjoying. I've watched him trying to, what do they call, I'm not a wrestler, but like, is it make weight? Is that what you call it?
Yeah, make weight, cut weight. Yep.
Cut weight.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched him do those things, and all that it's done for me is told me that I don't want to be a wrestler. But I think that importance of that toughness and transitioning it from a physical to a mental, that's a really important thing to figure out how to do.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because especially we have that halfway point in life where we have to figure out how to do that, because your physical isn't the same in the second half of life.
Right.
So we've reached the point where I want to ask you a question. I've been asking you lots of questions, so that's not really fair. But what is something that Bryan cannot live without, that you just you have to have?
Yeah, it's called a remarkable.
I said not a phone, but I know what that. So for those who are listening that don't know what that is, tell us what that is and tell us why it's so important for you.
Yeah. It's a digital tablet.
Yeah.
So the best way to explain it, it's an unending filing cabinet, the way I look at it, right?
Okay.
But it's small, just like this. It has no distractions on it. Doesn't ding, doesn't, vibrate, nothing like that. And why is because I use it to set my goals and to be accountable to moving what's most important to me forward.
Nice.
And I have a whole system for that I've developed with the help of a coach over a few years. And I wouldn't do without it if I could help it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty cool. No one's ever said that before. Remarkable. I know a lot of people that use them, and they all swear by them. They absolutely love them.
What kind of common answers do you get to that?
To
that question
that you can't live without? I've gotten boots. I've gotten a notebook, like a moleskin or something like that. I've gotten my cell phone.
Okay. This is a notebook on steroids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And does it store the notes somewhere, or they're all on the device?
Absolutely. If I lose that thing, I can recover it all.
That's huge. So I'm old school. I still write in like a notebook, and I carry notebooks with me. I literally have stacks and stacks of moleskins, or I can't even pronounce what I use now. I've moved on to a different brand called Lestrum or something. It's a German notebook.
Oh, nice.
It's very much like a moleskin. It just has numbered pages and things like that that help me. But I am super old school, so it's not like you're remarkable. Maybe I should try it. So
I recommend it.
Yeah. I like paper, though. But
yeah, I do too, and it feels a lot like paper when you write on it.
Wait a minute.
For real. Why they developed it that way.
Okay, I have to try one.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. So, we talked about how you got here. We talked about some of your origins. You and I were talking earlier, and I asked you, so what's your role here as president? Tell us about that. What's your role? What are the things that you're in charge of?
Yeah, I want to say first what our passion statement is.
Please, absolutely.
We help others win.
Mm.
Okay, and that's our bigger than life goal. I love the word passion.
Yeah.
And core purpose, cause, or passion. So we just narrowed it down to our passion statement. We help others win. We define that. Who do we help win? Our community, our customers, and our coworkers.
Come on.
And so that's we talk quite a bit about that. It's part of what we do. Our values, our faith, service, and family.
I saw that when we walked in the door in there. I love that.
Yeah, and so we, before I get into what I do, it's really more important of what we do, and we focus on our values, and they drive our decision making, how we treat each other, how we treat our community, how we treat our customers.
Come on.
So our foundation is faith. We're driven by our values in everything we do. We do the right thing. That's how we define that. That's how we define faith. I'm a Christian. We're Christian owned.
Mm-hmm.
However, that's how we define it for our people. They don't have to be Christian to work here.
Right.
But they know where we stand.
Yeah.
And we give glory to God for what he's given us, and we want to steward it well.
Yeah.
Our standard is service. Our customers receive uncommon service in every experience. High standard, but that's what we strive for.
Come on, Bryan. This is great stuff.
And our team is family. This company matters to all of us. Our team is family. My word, I'm struggling with this one. Our team is family. We, everyone matters here, and this company matters to all of us. Got it. So
that's huge. Those are really good.
Those are our three values, and we hire on those, fire on those, and train on those. We review on those. We have, so they're. I think if you'd ask anyone here, they would say that we live those out. They're not just something on the wall.
I think that's when you say they're your values, and I was going to ask you, but you said it, that you hire on them and you fire on them. I don't think that you can call them your values if you don't do that.
Right on.
I mean, if you don't hire based on them, and honestly, the hire one is actually easy. It's the fire one that's hard. If you're firing based on your values,
I think that that is hard. I think that one's gotten easier for us.
So
if someone gets fired, they've earned it. Right. So it doesn't.
That's a Dave Ramsey quote right there. He says if you're going to fire someone, they better know why they got fired.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that one's gotten a lot easier. I wouldn't say we're. I'm not saying we're top notch of what is it, hire slowly, fire fast.
Yeah, that's what they say.
I wouldn't say we're great at that.
Yeah.
The fire fast, but we're learning and we're getting better at that, and it's becoming more clear as we live out our values.
It's interesting. I agree with the hire slow and fire fast, but I also recognize that that's a process that takes a long period of time, only because I didn't learn the hire slow part early on.
Yeah.
And so once you have people on your team, you don't want to just fire fast. And I'm also the kind of person that I can react in the moment. Do you know what I mean? I might see something going on or whatever. And I think it's really, truly wisdom if you can exercise patience, because a lot of times things will happen and I'll make some assumptions, but I need to have some patience because my assumptions could be totally wrong.
Yeah.
And without communication and doing it in a right way, so if you work on my team, I might talk with you about something that happened 2 weeks ago. Be certain that I've been thinking about it for 2 weeks, but the deal is I want to make sure that I'm at a place where my mental capacity and who I am and the way that I'm looking at it is a right attitude. So through that process, when you talk about hiring slowly and firing fast, because I have not hired slowly sometimes,
sure,
it's made it a little bit more difficult to fire fast because I want to be honoring of that individual.
Yep.
And you want to give them, that's the other thing. I think there's a balance between if I'm seeing progress in someone and that they're growing and that they're learning, it's going to be very difficult for them to get fired in our organization.
Right.
When I see someone that they've stopped growing,
Yeah.
and they've stopped learning, and there are some real, we won't get into them now, but there's some real key indicators to that. And that's when it's actually not even about the individual as much as it's about the people that are around them.
Yes.
Because that individual starts to develop a toxicity.
Yes.
And I recently experienced a situation where a young man was fired, and it was so good to the rest of the team. I wasn't even aware of it.
Right.
The rest of the team was like, and I didn't hear it from them, but I heard it through the grapevine that they're like, wow, I really appreciate that person got fired.
Absolutely.
And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that is important that we are aware of, especially as leaders.
Yep.
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 So I love those things. One thing I want to touch on that you talked about, you said your favorite word is passion.
I don't know if it's my favorite word. I mean, you're putting words in my mouth, Joshua.
I am.
Yeah.
Well, you said you really like the word passion. How's that? Is that a fair statement? You did say that. We can play the tape back.
Yeah. Okay. I'll take that. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Anytime I say we can play the tape back, it doesn't matter what I said. They actually think it's true.
Right.
Why do you like the word passion? What is it about that word that makes it that you made it your passion statement as a company? What is it that you like about that word? Because I believe words matter.
I think it. Yeah, I do too. And I think why I love that word is because it does. It's what drives you. It would get. It's what moves you forward. It what excites you. You want to do something about. You want to. I believe people want to live for something bigger than themselves.
Agreed.
And when we're self-centered, we can be very miserable. That makes us miserable. But when we can see a bigger picture that we're here to help others, what does that do? It puts our focus on others and not us as much, and that can help us to be happy.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Why wouldn't we want to be?
Well, I mean, that totally makes sense. I think that we are actually designed and made to be serving.
Yes.
And working outside of ourselves. And I only say that I'm not all that old, but I've been on this planet for more than 40 years. And one of the biggest things that I've learned is I am most satisfied when I'm providing a service. I am most satisfied when I'm working for something that is outside of me.
Yes.
And the only reason I know that is I've done both.
Yeah.
I've done I'm doing this for me.
Yep.
And I've done all right, I'm going to do this for someone else and not be about me. And one is fulfilling, satisfying. Even when you talked about the beginning and how it was really hard, things can be really hard but really fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
I've been over the years at different times with my children. I'll come home from work, and I'm very blessed. I still come home from work. They're still in our home even though they're teenagers, and they still ask me every day, Dad, how was your day?
Oh, that's cool.
And sometimes in the hard times, they've gotten used to this phrase where it's like, my day was hard, but it was good.
That's good.
And it's like, you can have hard days, but they can be good.
Right.
And it's all based on, well, who are you working for? Are you working for Bryan?
Right.
Are you working for Josh? Or are you working for those around you? And I think that's the thing. You say you have 130 people in this family, as you call it.
Mm-hmm.
I would think, and I walked into your office, I saw your people. I've been here a couple of times. There is what's the word I'm looking for? There's like an aura when you walk into your facility. I forget if it was you, it may have even been one of your guys, but like even when you're coming up to the door, you guys have parking spaces like right next to the door that say visitor on them. Like not just in the normal parking lot, this is visitor parking, but like I've been to other businesses and that's been the president's parking spot.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I think that's really interesting. I would say when you talk about your family and the people and working outside of yourself, for me, that's been one of the most fulfilling parts of my job as we've grown as an organization, is having those people around me and realizing my job is to work for them.
Right.
And then you get to be a part of a team, which I think is huge, because what you can do by yourself
Yeah.
and look at all of these trailers. I don't think that you're the one producing all of them,
No.
but you have a team of people here that is providing this atmosphere and whatnot. That's pretty cool. So
Thank you. Yeah.
So, Utility Keystone, these are what are some of the services that you guys are providing related to what we're seeing here?
Yeah, we're a full service semi-trailer dealership, and we also have a leasing company called Penstro Leasing,
Okay.
short for Pennsylvania Strong.
Okay.
The best wrestling in the country. Yeah, for real. And so that's under a holding company.
Okay.
Both those companies, same values, same
Right.
everything, same people. So we look at it like 5 profit centers:
Okay.
new trailer sales, used trailer sales, parts, service, and leasing.
Okay.
So that makes up all of the products and services that we offer. And we like to think of ourselves, when you're looking at the semi-trailer, as the one-stop shop for that. We can serve our customers in any which way when they're talking about a semi-trailer.
Okay. So pretty much anything related to that, you're providing that level of service.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You've talked about, and you said some things, and I'm always listening because I said words matter and the words that you use. So your role as president, tell me what it is that you're responsible for in that role.
Yeah. So my responsibilities include culture, include our 10-year target,
Okay.
include budget, cash flow, and then leadership, management, accountability.
Okay.
So those are my main roles.
We were talking earlier, and I said it's the first time I've actually heard someone articulate that culture was part of their responsibility. And so when you mentioned culture, you mentioned cash flow, budget, and then leadership as well. I find it really interesting how all of those integrate together and function and work together. That's probably one of the greatest things in business that I've learned is the importance of that investment in culture and how that actually hits the bottom line. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
We were talking about that a little bit earlier, like, how it streamlines your hiring process and even your firing process.
Yeah.
When we started investing in culture, I remember the company that we were working with, because it's really important to, I believe, and you said this earlier, you mentioned a coach. I think it's important to bring people that aren't in your organization from the outside in, because you have blind spots and you can't see things.
Yep.
And it doesn't even mean that they're better than you at it. They're just not in your organization.
Right.
Years ago, I had an old timer tell me I'd bought my first house and I was remodeling it. And he had come by to look at some of my work. And there was like a wall plate that was off of one of the receptacles. And I'm an electrician by trade. And he had commented to me and he said, "So how long has that wall plate been off of that receptacle?" And I was like, "Oh, about 9 months, maybe a year." And he said, "When you live in it and you see it every day, you don't see it anymore."
Yeah.
And he said to me, he goes, "That's the importance of always working on stuff so that you don't leave that wall plate." And he goes, "You could live here another 10 years and not even notice."
That's a good point.
So I think that's really essential to be investing in that, and that costs money. That
Right.
takes time. So tell me a little bit about your investment in culture and how you see that from your perspective, how you see that relating to cash flow, budget, and leadership.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's simple. I think it's simple wisdom to say that when you take care of your team takes care of your customers.
Yeah.
Your customers take care of your business. It's like, right, that cycle. That's a good, healthy cycle.
Yeah.
So our job, and when I say our job, I'm talking about leadership team.
Yeah.
Our profit center bosses and the other leaders in our company are to, give clear expectations of this is what's required to everyone. They have to understand why they're here, what they're to do, and have that clarity.
Yeah.
To say, hey, this is what you're doing, and this is why it's important.
Yeah.
No matter if you're a technician in the shop, if you're parts, if you're sales, whatever, leasing, doesn't matter. But it does matter. But it's as simple as that. That healthy cycle of taking care of your team,
Yeah.
team to the customer and so forth. So how does that relate to, so how does culture relate to cash flow, to budget? I think culture drives it all, right? And you mentioned it. You came in and you felt a certain kind of atmosphere in our company.
Yeah.
And that, I feel like that is culture.
I
Right?
would agree.
It's what you feel, right? It's how do you feel dealing with us?
Yeah.
And we have standards. We train on that. We hold people accountable to it, to say, look, one of our sub values is, don't be grumpy. It doesn't pay value to our customers. This is, that's a spelled out sub value under our service value.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's one thing. So you have a bad day, that's okay, but the customer can't see that.
Yeah.
It just can't. So it's just important to do that.
So that's an interesting way to talk about that. And I'm going to get a little risky here and kind of push on you.
Yeah.
You talk about, okay, you have a bad day. The customer can't see that, which I agree with.
Mm-hmm.
But what about your family member or your team member? What are you doing for them? Like if they have a bad day, are they able to process that with their team?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's our family value, right?
Yeah.
So that means we care about each other. We have each other's backs. We're going to be there for each other. So that means, today, one of our teammates, I showed up this morning, and the ambulance was here. Okay.
Whoa.
And it was one of our younger team members, and here she took, I think, some medicine that wasn't sitting well with her. Guess what our team did? Swooped around her, cared for her, made sure she was okay, got the ambulance here, got her to the hospital, and I know she checked back. I saw a text to say, hey, thank the team for caring for me.
Wow.
So is that, again, I wasn't involved with that.
Yeah.
I'm just proud of how our team handled it.
Well, and that doesn't happen without your part of investing in culture and leadership.
I agree.
And I think, if you're running a company or you're in the presidential role, the importance of one of the ways that I see that culture relates to cash flow and budget, because cash flow and budget, I believe, are very much tied together.
Yes.
And culture relates to that in a way where you actually have to become aware enough. That's cool. We might get rained on.
I was
felt
thinking
some of
that, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It'd be the coolest podcast ever.
Yeah. All the electronics. But the culture piece, as a president, you have to make that decision to invest in that bottom line before you see that return.
Right. Yes.
Like what happened today only happened because of the investment that you've been making as a team.
I agree. I think you need to make these big picture investments, right, in your people, in your facilities, capital investments. Those are like strategic decisions sometimes.
Yeah.
Like how do we treat our policies and things like that are going to impact people? We think through those things.
Yeah.
We're not just willy-nilly. We're really thinking through it. And we have to understand that we're not here just to take care of people.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. We have to make money, but
we still have to pay the bills.
We got to pay the bills, right? So there's a balance there.
Come on.
And so we do both.
Yeah.
And we're coming off of some really good years.
Yeah.
The whole 2020 was actually good for us.
Yeah.
It created a lot of demand. I think a lot of businesses it did, and then now we're kind of back to normal, and we have to get back to the basics of saying, hey, let's focus on some cost control. Let's focus on how we can be more efficient as a team. Yeah. And that's everyone. And what I love to see about our team is their engagement.
Yeah.
And we have a thing called Keystone Keys. People nominate their team member for going above and beyond and representing us in our values.
Come on.
So these Keystone Keys, we've been doing this for years. I would guess 10 years, but it's now we gamified it. We made it fun.
Yeah.
So we came into this kind of area where we're saying, hey, business is dropping, and instead of having the Chicken Little, hide your head in the sand, we said, no, let's make this fun. Let's make a game out of it, and let's get our people engaged because they're going to make the difference. Yeah. And so we've been doing that for 6-9 months. We made it a lot of fun. People are giving more Keystone Key nominations than ever. We qualify them. That gets $10. When we have a live all company meeting every quarter,
Yeah.
the winner, which is voted, but it comes down to 5 keys. The whole company votes on these 5. The one winner gets to spin the wheel. Okay, they all get to spin the wheel, but the one winner gets to spin for the cash.
Nice.
Okay, and so the first time we did it, Dan won, I don't know, $400, something like that. Okay, now the next one, Captain, he didn't hit it. He just hit the prize. That rolls over to the next time. So that cash prize is already at $680. I think it'll be up to $1,000, which we cap at $500 a quarter.
Wow.
And we're gonna have fun with it. So anyway, the more of the story is the team engages, and that makes a big difference.
You have to have engagement.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Do you feel like being in leadership? Don't you think that you lead engagement? Like, I would say in my role, sometimes it's really hard to remain engaged because I feel like sometimes the weight of the world is on my shoulders. And
it's a Metallica song. Lyric, yeah, I like that song.
We'll start the podcast with the Metallica leading into it.
Please do, yeah.
But the weight of the world is on my shoulders, and I can feel like I actually become disengaged then with my team because I'm so worried or about this or about that.
Yeah.
And it's like you have to be really intentional to remain engaged. And I don't get engagement from my team when I'm not engaged.
You need a coach, Joshua.
Yeah.
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 I can help you with that.
Good deal. Good deal. So we're coming to the close, but I want to touch on something else because you're a second generation business and you've been put in a position where you're making investments in your community. You're doing some of these things that you're talking about. Can I ask you about this other thing that you do kind of on the side? Not really on the side.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I know that you have this organization that you're a part of.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a founding member?
I'm the founder, yes.
Well, there we go. He is the founder.
Yeah.
Tell us about Men of Iron.
Yeah.
I love the name. I think it's really, really cool.
Thank you.
So
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Men of Iron has been around since 2006 officially. Yeah, the quick story there is I was at a leadership summit out in Chicago at a mega church, Bill Hybels mega church, Willow Creek.
Yeah.
He opened up that. My dad had taken my brother and I, and then it became more friends and other people, our pastors were going. And that year in 2005, Bill Hybels talked about holy discontent. I felt God was like talking directly to me. My heart's beating. I'm like, okay, God, you got my attention. And through that talk, what I left with is he told me to get in the game, like make a difference. I've ordered your steps to this point.
Come on.
And here's what I want you to get engaged, more so than you have been.
Come on.
So I went home and I was like, I know I want to do something. I just don't know what.
Yeah.
Well, my beautiful wife, Heather, has a way to clarify things. I was telling her about this.
I know her. She's pretty awesome.
She is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm telling her, like, I know I need to do something. I just don't know what it is. And she goes, well, that's easy. I'm like, dang, girl, what? Tell me what, And she's like, it's when men don't do what they're supposed to do, when they're not stepping up and following God's plan for their lives. And when she said that, Men of Iron was born.
Wow.
Right? The name, not quite, but what we do was born. That God had given me that seed right there, that vision for it.
Wow.
And so that was back in 2005. And 2006, rolled it out in my local church then, Victory Church.
Okay.
Our pastor was quoted by saying, this has changed our culture.
Yeah.
Well, our passion statement there is what we aim to do is change a culture one man at a time.
Wow. And
we do that through mentorship and through other products and programs that we offer.
I think that's so huge in our, we've talked a lot about culture. We've talked a lot about family. We've talked a lot about team. And what you're talking about there, I think, is really huge because I believe the culture and the society that we live in,
yes,
that mentorship piece, that coaching piece, that whatever it is something that has actually been dissipating over time. Like I talked about how I didn't understand in some ways how I was different in my experiences later in life than some of my friends and others that I related to, or even young men that I work with.
Yeah.
And my wife, who is also awesome, by the way, she said to me one day, she said, well, you know, when you were at this place in life and this place in life, you had this person mentoring into your life and this person mentoring into your life and this person. And it's like, but I realized how much of an honor it is that I had that, and that not everybody has that. And Men of Iron is like, not only when I hear about what you are saying there, it's not only just doing that, but it's also being intentional about your wife said that it's when men don't do what they're supposed to do. I was very blessed that those men were doing what they were supposed to do in my life.
Absolutely.
And I mean, huge, and they're all in their 70s, approaching 80s now, and I still relate with them like that.
Yeah.
To this day.
Yeah. You know, one of our board members says it best. Men mess it all up. Okay, people understand that. You read the paper.
Yeah.
Right? Mostly it's men.
Yeah. This is true.
Okay?
This is true.
And he goes, that's what we're here to do. We're here to fix that. I love it. Steve, thank you very much. Steve Capaferri, baby.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So you guys, 2005, you're coming up on 20 years, Men of Iron. Tomorrow,
yes.
January will be 2025.
Wow. Yeah, we officially started in 06, so
okay.
26, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, are you all based out of one location? Are you spread abroad? Like, what's the...
Yeah, good question. Our headquarters are in Mannheim at Supply, which you know well.
Yeah.
And we also have an iron rep in the Tampa area.
Wow.
Yep. So we have some great traction down there. We have 2 board members down in the Tampa area, and a full-time iron rep there.
Wow.
And we have 10 on staff right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is awesome. That really is awesome.
I agree.
Well, we've reached that point where I want to ask you a question. I always ask people this question. It's one of my favorites because this is my mentor or therapy session right here. You're my coach right now.
Okay.
So what is a mistake that Bryan has made that you're willing to share with people that you've learned from? Something that's real that you're willing to share with those who are listening.
Well, you know, since you're in the trades, okay, I'm going to give you, from my background.
There's a whole bunch of men right now that are like, he's not in the trades, Bryan.
Okay. Okay. Well, this is right.
We are in the trades. There's just a bunch of young men that are like, I haven't seen him pick up a screwdriver or a hammer in a long time.
That's okay.
But yeah.
No, I hear you. I'm going to say when I was service manager. That's how I learned the business. Right after I got some manager trainee in me.
Yeah.
We had an opening for service manager, and I was young, and I went into that with my eyes wide open.
Yeah.
Right. That's not an easy. It's actually the hardest job in our industry, I think.
Wow.
In our company and industry. And what I learned, and I remember this clear as day, when we had reviews, and I'm meeting with one of our best techs, and it was just a review, and I gave it to him, and I think we had decided, hey, we're going to give so much money for a raise, and I didn't give it another thought. Well, he quit the next day, gone.
Wow.
And I said, I remember his name, DC. What happened, man? Why are you leaving? I wanted $1, and you gave me less than that. And I'm like, hey, can we salvage this? Nope. I'm out.
Wow.
And what I learned from that is just talk to people. You know, I got to learn to talk to people. Yeah. Ask them questions. You know, just have an open conversation. Most of the time, that's going to work a lot better than just making assumptions and making mistakes that can really hurt. And at the time, we needed him.
Yeah.
Like I remember, we had a very small shop. You know, we had maybe 8 guys, something like that. That's a big percentage of our guys.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And not that we don't need every one of our guys now. That's not what I'm saying. But I was trying to build the business, and that was a big mistake. It really was. Yeah. I regretted it.
I think that, man, that's a doozy. And I'm not harping on your mistake. I'm harping on the thing to learn from it is the communication piece.
Yeah.
Because anyone in leadership who has been put in a position where you have the authority to give raises, you have the power to do that. The importance of having those conversations and even knowing where people are.
Right.
But I'll even go a little bit further and to say, when we have that, the other thing that we need to realize is, because I've been on the other side of it in the sense of, as a leader, not asking certain questions and not communicating with people, and me making assumptions just like he made about you.
Absolutely.
Because he assumed that you didn't care about him.
Yeah.
That's what he assumed.
You're right.
And I have made that same mistake. I've made that mistake as an employee about my boss. I'll never forget. For me, I was a young man, and I hadn't gotten a raise for like 2 years. And I was like, it's like, that's intentional. Yeah, he doesn't care about me. He doesn't this. And so finally one day, out of my frustration, I walked into the office, and I said to him, so I haven't got a raise. I want a raise. And he made this comment to me. He goes, I don't even really know what you make. And I was like, all right, so we're just going to say this. I was like, bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't say that out loud. I had the wherewithal not to say that to my boss.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, I was probably about 10 years into a business. I had maybe 10 or 13 employees at the time. And we were busy and we were growing. An employee walked into my office and he said, we were talking about your mistakes. I don't know why we're talking about mine. He walked into my office and he says to me, he goes, so I want a raise. I haven't gotten a raise for 2 years. And I looked at him and I was like, I don't even know what you make. Because like my boss, and when I was an employee, I was so insensitive to my boss to be like, clearly the world in this company revolves around me.
Right.
That you should know exactly what I make and where I'm at. And then there I was, however many years later, as a boss and an employer, and realizing, but the importance of all of us to communicate. You to communicate to your employee to communicate to you. Like, so if you're listening to this and you're a boss or a president or CEO, leader, manager, whatever it is, and you're not communicating with your people, you're going to miss it. And then you might have the mistake that Bryan is talking about, where your people don't think that you care about them, when that's probably the furthest thing from the truth.
Right.
If you're an employee like me and you're making the assumption that your boss thinks this and that about you, or even like your employee, it's on you as well.
Right.
That you need to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's a two-way street. Well, absolutely, we should do that as leaders, but leaders are only as good as the people that they're leading. Like, we're only as good as those who are around us, because that is the team that makes us effective to be able to do the things that you're talking about.
Right.
To be able to invest in community and to do these great things. We don't do them alone. And so that's really important. It's a great mistake to share. I really appreciate your honesty. I think that's something that brings value and that people can learn from. Bryan, I just really appreciate what you guys are doing. I live here in the Manheim area, so I appreciate the investment that you're making in the community. I see it. You know, our institute, our school operates out of the building that you guys have invested in. Mm-hmm. You know, it operates out of supply.
Yeah.
It provides the investment. This is the thing that I find so exciting about business overall, is the legacy that we're able to build. And is what I mean by that. In 1978, your father had an opportunity and he took it.
Right.
In 2008, you had an opportunity and you took it. You made that decision. In 2005, you made another decision. All of those things are based off of a first step to build a legacy, to be able to invest in people, in the community, and to provide service outside of ourselves. We talked about this earlier, where it's like, when do we feel most fulfilled? What are we made for? That's really important. And it's good for us to have an awareness and do some introspection constantly, so that we're like, am I continuing to grow and do that? Am I in a learn and grow mindset as an employee, as a business owner, or am I in a protect and defend mindset? Because one of them will come with great success. I think that your dad would say the business looks very different today than it did in 1978.
Sure.
And I think that when we have that learn and grow mindset, that's when that things really have the potential and the opportunity to go beyond where we see, and they can become legacy that impacts the family that's in your business, the community that you're in, and it really can build into people, which is what it's really about. So I think you've touched on some really good things here today. I think you've brought some great value to us. I love that you're investing outside of the business in men. I think that is huge. And I'm really glad that you've taken the time to sit down and help us elevate the view of the skilled trades, the men and women that do this work. And we're so appreciative of that, Bryan. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Well said, Joshua. Appreciate that.
So if people want to buy a trailer,
Yep.
where do they find you?
UtilityKeystone.com.
UtilityKeystone.com. They're on Instagram. You're on what other things? Your Facebook?
Yeah, we're on all of it, I think.
All of it.
Instagram, Facebook.
Okay, so I'm going to check and see if he's on
LinkedIn.
TikTok.
I
So
don't know about TikTok.
yeah, we can't say all of it anymore because there's
Yeah, that's
Snapchat,
true.
there's TikTok, but yeah, UtilityKeystone.com
Yeah, or Penster Leasing.
or PenStroLeasing.com.
Yep. Yes.
Okay, awesome. Well, Bryan, thank you for stepping up to the line and giving us your time today.
Thank you.
I greatly appreciate it.
You too.
All right,
Thanks.
we're out.